indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good evening. I don't have any comments. Berna, call the roll.
Mayor Miller,
Here.
Councilmember Thurley,
Here.
Craig,
Here.
Alexander, here, Salyards,
Here.
Worzakowski,
Here.
White. Here. First item is 2.1, which is a public hearing for the 2012 proposed property tax levy and proposed budget.
Okay, I'll open that public hearing and ask if there's anyone present wishing to speak to the proposed property tax levy and proposed budget. Anyone willing? Okay.
Hello, I'm Mark Metzler. I live at 74 Wildridge Drive, and I'm the president of the Historical Society. And I want to talk to you a little bit about your funding for the Historical Society. First of all, we thank you for your investment in the History Center through in-kind gifts when we were constructing the center. It was very important for us. And we appreciate your work in helping us secure the property that allowed the center to be built. Without you, I don't think we would have been able to build the center. We think the investment we've made in the downtown is very important, and we think you leave the same. And we hope you recognize the History Center as a destination, as an anchor of downtown. And because of that, I'd ask that you keep our funding at $10,000 for the coming year. One of the things that's important to me, and we have 1,700 members, and if we don't get the extra funding, I think we'll be okay. But what will happen is we'll have to get extra funding from other people. And those other people won't be able to, will probably have to choose whether they're giving their funding to the History Center or to another organization. And sometimes there are other organizations, I think, not organizations that are in the mainstream for our community that would suffer. I kind of call it nonprofit natural selection, if you will, where the fittest organizations survive. And I think if we have to raise extra money from people, then other organizations will suffer. So I want you to consider that, if you would. And that's really all I have to say. I wanted to, again, thank you for your time and for your support, and again, ask that you will consider us for $10,000 in the coming year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak to the 2012 proposed property tax levy and proposed budget?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Mark Peterson. I live at 720 West 10th Street. I'm also the director of the Winona County Historical Society, and I want to just begin by saying thank you to the council for all the years of support the council's given to the Historical Society. It's an important partnership, I think, that we have with the council and the city of Winona. Also for your help with our recently completed new addition. The Historical Society, I'm sure, would never have completed that project if it wasn't for the help not only of the city of Winona, but the staff of the city of Winona, in particular Judy Bodway. The Historical Society, I think, has been good stewards of these funds over the years, and we strive to do the best we can with the funds that we have available. The concern we have right now is the loss of these funds from 3 years ago when we received $18,000, and then 13, and then 10 this year, and then proposed for 5,000 next year, along with the loss of the Convention and Visitor Bureau funding that we've used over the last 18 years or something like that. I don't have the chart in front of me. I want to address two things that I've heard. One is concerns the parking lot that the Historical Society has recently constructed on the corner of Johnson and 4th Street. That was Port Authority property. The Port Authority purchased the building there, graciously allowed the Historical Society to use that site for a construction site during the construction of our building. And when that was completed, we asked the Port Authority what their intentions were, and they said they were going to grass it over. They didn't have the funds to build a parking lot. We thought that it would be in our best interest if there was a parking lot there, and we approached the Port Authority and we worked out an agreement with them, and with our own funds we constructed that parking lot and worked out a 10-year agreement with the Port Authority. So just want to make sure that that's clear. One other issue that I've heard concerns the competition with local businesses. Since we completed our addition, we have used that addition to draw people into the museum and for programs, and opportunities to view the exhibits, but to also use the facility for other purposes. Everything from the public library's summer programs to Winona National Bank using our facility, Winona State University, on and on. I mean, it's filled a niche, I think, in downtown Winona for the kind of facility that we built. They say you build it, they'll come. I think if you build it well and you build it beautiful and you have the Historical Society Museum to go along with it, it becomes a real anchor, and I think that we've found that's been true. So, we don't provide any food there. All the food vendors, all the caterers in town have certainly enjoyed the events and the programs and conventions and things like that we've had down there in the past year. And that's really all I wanted to say, other than to say thank you again for your support. And we were encouraged to approach the council. We're told the council would probably reconsider this at the preliminary budget meeting in August. And so I guess we were hoping that you would do that at this time. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak to the 2012 proposed property tax levy and proposed budget?
Mr. Mayor, Jim Erickson, 349 Valley Oaks Drive. I'd like to just say a few words as a community member on what I've been observing at the museum over the years. I do volunteer there, but I find that there's a greater number of activities going on, many more people coming into the museum, and also the museum has earned a reputation so that we not only display and exhibit local items or use local presenters, but we bring in presenters from around the state. Beyond that point, it has also taken on the chance to display exhibits from such places as the Smithsonian, the Lincoln Library, the Minnesota History Center. So it has earned its respect around not only this area, but far and beyond. It's definitely a people museum. I do some touring of groups, touring all ages. They tell me a lot that I learn. 2-year-olds, second graders, aged adults, they all enjoy the museum. So I strongly support what has been said to maintain funding for the museum. Dollars are important. Mark Peterson has this worn-out saying that history never stops, and it doesn't. But we don't want it to slow down. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak to the 2012 proposed property tax levy and proposed budget? Anyone else wishing to speak to the 2012 proposed property tax levy and proposed budget? Anyone else wishing to speak to the 2012 proposed property tax levy and proposed budget? Okay, seeing none or hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council. You have the budget in front of you. I'd like to point out that the city's budget is $250,000. We levied $250,000 less. Barry, you want to tell us what we're doing here?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I guess I'll just mention some of the numbers so that the public knows what dollars we're talking about. The 2012 property tax levy is proposed at $6,109,253, and that's compared to a property tax levy of 2011 of about $6.393 million. The Port Authority property tax for 2012 is about $459,000 approximately, and the 2011 was a little higher at $463,000. And then the overall budget with all of our funds for the 2012, which includes the Port Authority, would be proposed at $33.2 million compared to 2011 at $35.3 million. So you're right, the levy is down. There's a little confusion with the market value changes, so there's some technical information in there if anyone wants me to go into that. Thanks.
Okay, any questions of Mary? Okay, is there a motion, or what's your pleasure?
I have a question for Mary.
Okay,
Mary, what would it take actually to increase the Historic Society's budget at this point? If we decided we wanted to give them more money than what we budgeted for?
At this point, you're aware that we can't increase our tax levy. So the normal answer would be you need to reduce an expenditure someplace else in the budget for $5,000.
Thank you.
okay.
A question. Possibilities, first I want to thank everyone that came for the Historical Society, and yes, it's an invaluable asset to Winona, wholeheartedly, without doubt, with far-reaching areas and repercussions it has economically and just, socially for the community. Possibility, if for council's consideration, if we look at that possible increase, and we know it would have to come from somewhere else, is there a possibility in any of the contingency funds at this time?
Well, there's always a possibility in the contingency funds, and I think those funds are there for contingencies that may happen as time goes on. I don't have to remind you of where we're at. I think we realize after this hour meeting we just had where we're at.
I was going to finish.
Okay, do you have a recommendation as to
Well,
where you want to
I was just going to
take it?
say in general, and like you said, yes, we just had an hour closed meeting on labor negotiations. There's lots of those things to consider, and also with the forecast, that we have the second legislative forecast coming out in February, that we need to have a better idea of where we're at. So I think as much, I was going to say too, with the 2011 legislature, they did pass, as we know, a budget agreement that cut around $636 million in state property tax relief programs, aids and cuts. So the whole state is dealing with that as well. That's caused, several cities, to service cuts and property tax increases to homeowners and Main Street businesses as well. Though I know our city levy is down, a lot of us have seen already on our truth and taxation, our property taxes have gone up. I know mine have as well. So I think, again, I'm a very strong supporter of the Historical Society. I've been on their board since 2005. And unless I would love to hear input from my fellow council members as well, but I'm wondering if at this point it might be wise for us, we can look at it again, and if maybe bring it up possibly in a few months and see where the forecast is, where things are, where we kind of settle then, see how stable our funding is maybe in a couple of months, to probably, possibly bring that up to wait and see for our consideration. That would be one suggestion that I have, and unless someone else has some other ideas.
That would be fair. I think we're going to be looking at a lot of things in a couple of months, depending on what the forecast is. I think the city of Winona has gotten reduced in state aid. What was it, $1 million?
2010, we were lowered by $1 million to $1.5 million in 1 year.
Right. We were lowered by $1.5 million, and we did our best to, as Debbie stated, to reduce our levy, which we did reduce by $200 and some thousand, and the public's, many of the public property taxes are still going up. We do not know what the state is going to do. We had a fairly good forecast, but they're still projecting in 2013 of being probably somewhere around $1 billion in the red. So I think we all agree that the Historical Society is a great asset for our community, and maybe it's something we can take a look at down the line. But that's my 2 cents. Yeah.
I know it's always been a dream of Mark's to be able to expand that and to actually see it happen. Everyone's thrilled, and it's kind of like a lot of us have happened, you look for good things in your life, and then all of a sudden they're there. But then you seem to get penalized for them. Because all of a sudden you're bringing in extra money, or so the public assumes you're bringing in, all this
Right.
money, and it's not going out. And, if that new history center hadn't been built, we probably wouldn't be here. I'm sure that money would have gone to them.
Right, but the city did work hard, I think, as was mentioned. I think the city was a key player in building that. And so I don't think there's anything, the History Center's got a mission, we got a mission, and we report to a lot of people, and
Has the county ever given us anything, Mayor?
given us anything?
The museum?
I think they do. I think the county contributes. I don't know how much, but I'm sure they contribute. Debbie?
Just because you mentioned, Mayor, that when the port did buy that lot for the annex is the building now, that gorgeous building is, but we sold it, the port sold it to the Historical Society for that $85,600. And of course, they fundraised and had a matching grant for an over $4 million addition. And then the parking lot that the Historical Society does pay $100 a year for. They have a 10-year contract presently for that. And this Historical Society is responsible for paving and striping, but the city does plow that. When the addition, just for information, was made, that the city provided about $7,500 for sewer, water, and sidewalk repair for that new addition for that. But I would, I said, would love to hear if there's other suggestions, or possibly from, council, if you think there's other ways that we would be able to find that monies for presently, or for sure, I would like us to revisit this in a couple of months after the forecast and see if we know better, a little bit more stable where we are at financially.
Okay, Al?
Yeah, this is all good discussion, and I appreciate the input from everyone, and certainly the Historical Society has probably some of the broadest community support of any of the organizations in our community. I would like to make a motion at this time that we approve the property tax levy as presented to us with the amendment, or with the, hopefully it'll fly, that we look at directing staff to, once more revenue forecasts are clearer, we direct staff to find an additional $5,000 over the next 12 months of our budget year that would be a part of the Historical Society's usage under their request.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a motion, if I understood the motion, is that we pass the budget as proposed with the stipulation that after the February forecast, staff and council would look at.
Right, and come back to council with.
Come back to council with the possibility of an additional $5,000 for the Historical Society.
Correct.
Okay, is there
Yes.
any discussion? No discussion? Okay, all in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, carried. Okay,
Next item is 3.1, it's appointments to the Heritage Preservation Commission of Bruno Bersari and Wes Hamilton.
Move to confirm those appointments.
okay,
Second.
there's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Michelle. Questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, which is to approve the appointments to the Heritage Preservation Commission. All in favor of that, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Carried.
The next item is 5.1, it's the separation and agreement for Larry Thompson.
Okay, I'll just wait a minute till they exit. Okay, on November 28th, 2011, the city council held a closed meeting to evaluate the performance of Larry Thompson, city manager. In accordance with governing law at this city council meeting, the city is required to summarize the conclusions of the evaluation of the performance of Mr. Thompson reached by the city council at the November 28th closed meeting. Mr. Thompson did not request that such meeting be open to the public. As a result, the evaluation of Mr. Thompson's performance took place in a closed meeting as required by the Minnesota Open Meeting Law. I will now provide a summary of the conclusions reached by the City Council from the November 28th evaluation. Mr. Thompson's management style in his time as city manager for the city had resulted in some deficiencies regarding his accessibility, interactions, and working relations with some city department heads and supervisors. Because of these deficiencies, the city council believed that Mr. Thompson was not the right fit for the city to continue in the position of city manager to lead the city's operations and management. As a result, Mr. Thompson and the city council have now reached a consensus that Mr. Thompson separate from employment with as many skills and abilities to explore other opportunities. Mr. Thompson has accordingly tendered his resignation effective November 30, 2011, in accordance with his employment agreement. This evening, the City Council has before it a separation agreement with Mr. Thompson for the City Council's consideration. The separation agreement expressly modifies the timing of the payment, severance due Mr. Thompson, under Section 10 of his employment agreement with the city, based on Mr. Thompson's request that severance not be paid in one lump sum in 2011, but instead be paid 1/6 of the amount in 2011 and the remainder in 2012. This separation agreement also contains a mutual non-disclosure provision regarding non-public personnel data and provides that the city provide a letter of reference for Mr. Thompson. On behalf of the City Council, I wish to thank Mr. Thompson for his service to the city and wish Mr. Thompson the best of luck on all his future endeavors. Okay, Chris, we do have before us.
Mayor and council, as the mayor indicated, you have a separation agreement before you this evening. The mayor has essentially already summarized that. The operative provisions of the agreement are in Article 2, severance pay. Mr. Thompson had requested that the severance be paid in 2 payments, one in 2011 and the remainder in 2012, instead of the method that was in his employment agreement, which called for one lump sum. And so that's is essentially an amendment to his employment agreement. There's also a non-disclosure provision, as the mayor indicated, and a provision for a letter of reference, and that is essentially the document before you. We're recommending approval.
Okay.
I'll move to approve that the mayor and city clerk be directed to sign the separation agreement.
Moved by Debbie, second by Jerry. Questions or comments? Okay, all in favor of the motion, which is to have the mayor and the clerk sign the separation agreement is with Mr. Thompson. All in favor of that, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Carried.
The next item is 5.2, the designation of Judith R. Bodway as the interim city manager.
Move to approve the appointment of Judith R. Bodway as the interim city manager.
Second.
Moved by Jerry, second by Michelle. What does the R stand for?
Ray. Judith Ray.
Right, well,
Okay, any discussion? All in favor of the motion, which is to designate Judith R. Bodway as interim city manager. All in favor of that, say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Next item is 5.3, the 2012 Visit Winona budget.
Okay, we have representatives from Visit Winona.
Good evening. I'm
Good
Jim
evening.
Schmidt. I'm the chair of the Visit Winona Board. Live at 277 East Broadway. I have a pop quiz for you. What generates $65 million in sales in Winona County, creates $4.2 million in state sales tax revenue, and creates 2,101 jobs in Winona County? The answer is tourism. Tourism, an important part of Winona County, important part of the state. According to the State Tourism Bureau, for every dollar spent investing state tourism, so I can't make the same claim for tourism in Winona, each dollar leverages $4.60 in state and local taxes, $20.40 in wages, and $53 in gross sales to an area. So I think the investment in tourism, the investment in Winona and this area have been good investments. Visit Winona has had a great long history of working with the City Council. We appreciate the support we've gotten from the council over the years. I think, as I mentioned last year, all the way back to when Al Thurley was director and gave me a call to recruit me to serve on the CVB at that time. And I appreciate that phone call, Al, because it's been a very rewarding period of time for me.
Thank you for your service.
I'm finally term limited out, so there'll be a new chair that'll be in front of you next year. After the change, they started the term limit things all over again. I wanted to highlight some of the successes of Visit Winona and, of course, answer any questions you might have on the budget. Visit Winona has finally tackled a number of issues in the last few years that have constantly been in front of me, and I think I've been on this board for 12 years or so it's been a while. I think we've done a number of things right. They come down to focus. What is it that we're trying to do? We're not advertising everywhere about everything with anyone who happens to knock on our door. We're focusing on what's important and to the audiences that can really get to Winona. You know, Winona State, my other job, had a marketing study that was just being completed as I got there. The marketing study said Winona State was a great university hiding in plain sight. And we started some of these same things, focusing, trying to make ourselves more attractive, and we've been successful from a university and enrollment perspective. Well, in many ways, Visit Winona has done much of the same things. We have focused our marketing energy into those parts that we can have an impact. Secondly, I'm all about leverage. How do we leverage the assets that we already have? You know, I've lived in some other communities, and they don't have much for natural assets. They just have to create things, such as a spam museum from my previous location, where I served on their CVB as well. Great people, great community, but look at the natural assets that we have. Part of what we've put forward is our brand, Spectacular Beauty, Remarkable Arts and Culture. We've been blessed with so many new attractions over the last couple of years, and we've been partners with them. So that third piece I wanted to leave you with is collaboration. We don't do it by ourselves, but we have to be clear about what we do and what we don't do, and then work to our strengths to try to get the things accomplished. One of the things that I'm most proud of has been a shift to helping people understand what role they have in tourism. How many of you would think Winona Health has an interest in tourism?
Oh, sorry.
They now have a seat on our board. Betsy Methuen has been serving on that board. And you know what they've said? Tourism is important. The work that we do is important. Because unless Winona is attractive, they can't attract the top-notch doctors they need to ensure that we have the top-notch medical care that we hope to have in a community like Winona. How many of you think of St. Mary's, Winona State, and the technical colleges wanting tourism? We need it. That's how many people get exposed to the amazing community of Winona that makes them think, hey, maybe I'd like to go to college there. Or hey, maybe my granddaughter or grandson or niece, nephew, next door neighbor might want to be here. We're all connected to it. When it comes down to it, although we are focused on promoting the tourism opportunities in Winona, in many ways what we do is we support the enterprises